Myself, Dr. Gayatri, IQAC Coordinator, Vinay Missions Medical College, Karikal. A pleasant morning to one and all. Internal Quality Assurance Cell, IQAC, aims at achieving quality through continuous improvement with cooperation of all stakeholders. With this motto, IQAC of Vinay Missions Research Foundation, deemed university, is organizing a series of webinars to develop a system for consistent and catalytic action to improve the academic and administrative performance of the university. We from Vinay Missions Medical College, Karikal, happy to organize this 28 quality webinar series on the topic, ensuring quality in documentation of learning, role of e-portfolio. On behalf of our Dean, sir, I welcome everyone to this session. Now I humbly request our University IQAC Director, Professor P. Gnanasegaran, sir, to address the audience.
Morning all. It's indeed a great pleasure to be in this webinar, the 28th webinar of the Quality Webinar Series. This webinar series is being organized by the IQAC of constituent colleges on alternate Saturdays. So we started this during the COVID period. And even after COVID, we thought this has a good impact. So we are continuing with this webinars. And the previous 27 webinars have been really eye-openers for all our IQAC coordinators as well as faculty of the institution. We have been seeing participants from even outside the university in these webinars. So these webinars have now become part of the calendar of every institution. So I'm really proud that VMMC Karikal has come forward to host this 28th webinar. I congratulate both the Dean and the IQAC coordinator for organizing this webinar. And about the resource person and the topic, when I look at the topic as well as the resource person, I feel that it is the right topic with the right person. I am also happy to note that Dr. Sitaraman not only has chosen this topic, but I think he's well versed with the topic. Looking at his portfolio itself, I see he has published papers and made presentations even on topics like this way back in 2021. I see he has published, made a presentation at SRM on role of e-portfolios in undergraduate medical education, right on during the launch of CBME. Now, this e-portfolio is one topic which is picking up in the educational scenario, specifically in the medical field, where keeping track of a student's log, his activities in a digital form is become more essential nowadays. Even CBME stresses on digitization of all the records of the students and the faculty alike, as well as the assessment records. So this webinar, I do hope that it will bring in insights on how to use e-portfolios, what are its benefits, and how specifically the health professionals can improve their profile. So I'm looking forward to this webinar, and I welcome all of you on behalf of the Dean for this webinar, and I wish everyone a wonderful Saturday. Thank you.
My privilege to introduce our esteemed speaker for the day today, for today's day, Professor Dr. Sitaraman, sir, with short intro. Sir, at present, currently working as Professor and Head Department of Community Medicine, KMCH Institute of Health Science and Research. Sir is also Coordinator of the Medical Education Unit of the institution. Sir has previously worked in Mahatma Gandhi Medical College, Pondicherry, SRM University, Chennai, PSG, Coimbatore. Sir has completed his undergraduation at SRMC, Chennai, post-graduation in MD Community Medicine at PSG, Coimbatore. Sir has expertise in areas like e-portfolios, medical education, research methodology training, application of IT tools in healthcare, and spatial epidemiology. Sir at present has 30 plus national and international publication. Sir has done researches in the topic like childhood malnutrition, mapping of snake bite envenomation, GIS in tuberculosis control, career aspiration among medical graduates, health issues among transgenders. At present, sir is working in areas like edible oil usage, modern menstrual methods, migrant laborers, e-waste disposal, etc. Sir has also designed and implemented multiple community-based learning modules. Sir has also implemented many curricular innovation in the medical education. Sir has special aptitude towards research upskilling and IT tools in education. With this intro, now I invite our speaker, Professor Dr. Sitaraman Sir, Professor and Head, Department of Community Medicine from KMCH, Institute of Health Science and Research, to take over the session. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, all. Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you, Director Sir, for having me over. It's a pleasure to be here. Am I audible and visible? Okay, then. Right. Portfolios are something close to my heart. It's not just something we read about, rather it's something we have actually implemented in different settings. So we thought when Gayatri asked me, can you speak on one of these? I readily accepted for the portfolio topic because this is, we have a hands-on experience on how to go about this, what were the problems. So this little experience sharing, let's call this that. This is an experience sharing session. Many of your some of your constituent colleges have actually done this also. So there might be a little bit of learning from both sides. I would also be learning something new. Right. Let me share my screen here. And yeah. Can you see my PowerPoint, ma?
Yes, sir, I can see.
Okay. Right. So ensuring quality in documentation of learning, role of e-portfolios. That's what we are going to discuss today. The overall scheme of the framework is going to be like this. A little bit on the importance of documentation. And we'll try to look at the difference between portfolios, log books, record books. They all sound similar. So let's look at what they are actually. And we can have an idea of what are the elements of a portfolio, the advantages and drawbacks. And basically the session aims you to move a little bit towards implementing e-portfolios in your institution. You can think of it as a primer towards that, right? So talking about documentation, the need for documentation. We are in an era where if we don't document it, we have not done it. That seems to be the era we are living in. So every small and big thing we do, we need to document it. It could be for the purpose of UGC, NMC, NAC, or NABH, or NIRF. Any of these agencies, in fact, every one of these agencies expect us to document all our activities. Now, that is the primary reason why we have IQAC in most of our institutes, to make a system of systematically documenting our activities. Now, when we usually hear documentation, we can readily understand an event documentation. Let's say an event happens. It's easy to understand what needs to be done for documenting. Take a few geotagged photos, write an activity report, and file it someplace. That's documentation of an event. Whereas if we are asked as to how do you document your entire program, your 5 years, 5.5 years MBBS course, how are you documenting? How are you documenting the progress of your learners? If that's the question, we get a little stumped because that documentation it's not a simple thing. It's going to be a collection of so many smaller components all put together. There is no umbrella kind of documentation for the entire program. If we think about it, we are little unclear on how do we actually document that we run a course. I mean, other than showing videos of, yes, we have classrooms, this is the attendance registers. We could do something there, definitely. And especially when it comes to competency-based training, which we are doing now, the competency literally translates into, if you're saying competency-based, it means we need to certify them. And certification is documentation, basically. So if we are talking about competency-based medical education, documentation of learning becomes the crucial part in it. So, so what do we usually document? We can think of it this way. We can either document the processes that go in, or we can document the outcomes. Let's take a minute. We can document the processes of learning. That is, the person attended this session, he did this, he did this training, he underwent this training. Or we can document the outcome. Now he has learned a lumbar puncture. Now he has learned a suturing. The outcome can be documented. So basically, we can measure the progress and the performance of the learner when we document this. These are the possible things that can be documented. Now, how do we do this, if you ask? We can start off with simple things like our academic schedules, maybe our attendance registers. See, this is a documentation of this many students having attended. That's documentation. We can also show our assessment records. We can show our multiple internal assessments. We can show our final mark sheets also. That's a documentation of outcome. And then we have our log books and record books, which are meant to be documentation of the learning processes. Now, like I said before, with CBME, we need certification of competencies. NMC has given a long list of competencies which we are supposed to certify. The learner now is competent to carry out this procedure. He is competent to carry out X, Y, Z. We have been given a big list. So this is how we go about documenting. Now, are there scope for improvement here? Can we do one better? That's the whole idea of this session now. So let's take a look at this. Can we do better? Now, I think I'll start with your opinions on this. See, the first thought that should come is we all already have our record books. MGR University gives us a record book. If we have our own universities, we design our own record book. So why bother? Why do we even introduce new words like portfolios and all that? So what is wrong with our existing record book system? Should be a natural question by now. And I would like to know from you as to what you think is, inadequate or problems with the current records. If you have a phone on hand, please pull out your phone, scan this QR code, and answer a short question, please. Let me know if you have any difficulties. You can also go to menti.com and enter these numbers given there. You will be taken to a survey, and it's a short one question survey, basically. Let me know if you are having difficulties. I'll switch my screen to your response section. Should I show that? Yeah, you have started responding already. Wonderful. I hope you can see the screen. Boring. Wonderful. Definitely, record books are a very boring job. Proxy. Okay, I'll wait for you guys to finish it. It is time consuming, definitely. Loads of paper. Proxy, I guess you mean they ask someone else to write their records. Time, boring, complicated, difficulty in reflecting. Okay. reflecting is a new word. Let's come to that. Lack easy access. Okay. I guess it means the book can be at only one place at one time, maybe. Actually, at the right bottom, I can see how many people have responded. It shows 4. Okay. So 4 people have given these answers. I would love to hear from more people. What do you think are the problems with the way we run record books currently? If you ask me, I can write an essay on it. Tend to be lost by time. True. The day after the exam, we throw away the book. We never look back at it because we don't find anything interesting in there. I'll wait 2 more minutes to hear from you. Right, the poll will be open. You can answer, you can put your comments. I'll switch back to my slides. So basically, there are issues with the current way we run record books. For one, it's quite outdated. You think about it. Ever since what printing press was invented or something, this record book has not changed much. We have been doing the same thing. We give them a big thick record book. They take it up a month before exams, final exams. They write something very mechanically. We also sign it because we think university expects it during the exam. It's a very mechanical method. There's no soul in it. There is no interest from students to fill it. It is a mandatory requirement, so they're filling it. It is an university requirement, so we are running the show. It's just quite outdated, I'll put it that way. And yeah, so there are alternatives available. And in this age and time where we do almost everything in a digital format, we transfer money digitally, we conduct Zoom meetings digitally. It just does not make sense if we keep our record books still in the physical form. There are just so many advantages of the electronic mode that it sometimes really surprises me why we have not moved away from physical record books. So anyway, so these discussions, the today's program, these are small like steps towards moving all of us, not just one institute, generally the move towards electronic records, basically. Okay, what do I have next? So that brings us to a possible solution, which is called portfolios. Now, if we look up in the dictionary as to what a portfolio is, there's a few definitions. A hinged case for carrying loose papers, office and functions of a minister, securities held by an investor. But these are not the ones we are interested in. This is the one we are interested in. A selection of students' works compiled over a period of time and used for assessing progress and performance. Now, this is what we call a learning portfolio or an educational portfolio, right? So there's a specific definition. Now, I cannot highlight any keywords because all the words here are keywords. A collection of student work, reflections, educational experiences, assembled in a structured format, customized by the students for documentation and assessment. This is, if you want a textbook definition, this is how it's going to look like. Right. So, no. So there are these 3 entities: logbook, record book, portfolios. We can consider logbook as a verified record of the progression of the learner. The record book as the evidence of events documented in the logbook. Let's say logbook is more like an index page. I did this on this day, this activity on this day. I visited a PhD on that day. I did AFB staining on that day. So a very brief mention of the date and the activity done. That is usually what a logbook is. Now we have added certification to the logbook, which is also called assessment record by the universities, right? So a logbook is our assessment record, and the record book is our academic record. What it has is it has the evidence of things that we have mentioned in the logbook. That's what a record book is. Now, a portfolio is a much more wholesome entity, which is what we are going to see now in this, which is what we are seeing now. Right. So, no, NMC had this series of booklets. One of them was on logbook guidelines. If you read through the 4 words in it, it says these words: logbook is a verified record, portfolios and evidence. And then it says the maintenance of portfolio is desirable. If portfolio is not possible to be maintained, an annexure to the logbook can be used for documentation details. This is what NMC says. Now, this word desirable can be interpreted in a couple of ways. It's only a desirable thing. It's not a compulsory thing. So we need not do it. It's one possible way, but that's not how I see it. I see it as they're saying this is the first option. If you can do a portfolio, please do a portfolio. If portfolio is not possible to be maintained, then an annexure to logbook. This annexure to logbook is what we are calling record book. The entire NMC document does not use the word record book. It says either logbook or portfolio. So the record book that we have been using for like 20, 30, 50 years now is the secondary option. The first preferred option is the portfolio actually. If a portfolio is not possible to be maintained, then an annexure to logbook, which is what a record book is actually. That's what we are using now. So that's how I would interpret this sentence, this word rather, desirable. Desirable means I see it as first option. First option is portfolios. If you're not able to do it, go for the usual record books. Now, the next ones are even more interesting. NMC is saying whether you maintain the logbooks subject-wise or phase-wise, one for phase 1, one for phase 2, or one combined for all the phases, or whether you maintain it in print or in electronic format, is left to the discretion of the individual institutions. This is straight from NMC's book. I'm not making this up. So they have given us all the freedom. We have been kind of stuck with the the momentum, or rather the inertia of what we have been doing year long. It is going on. Why change something? We don't perceive the need for a change, so we are sticking on to the good old record book. NMC has been very open to us trying portfolios, electronic portfolios, combined portfolios. They're all okay with it. We are the ones who are not, we are inside our comfort zone, so to speak. We have not explored outside. Right. So moving on to portfolios, there are 3 key elements in a portfolio. There are 3 key elements. One is the documentation. This happened. That's telling that this happened. And then the reflection component, where the learner says, oh, this session made me feel this way. I realized this today only. His thoughts and feelings, which are never captured in a record book. Let's be very clear on that. The record book is a very mechanical, mode of documenting. There is no scope for any personal comments or personal feelings that is considered undesirable in a professional record. Record is supposed to be a very, work-like thing. There's no fun in a record book. And the third component is the feedback from the faculty. These are the 3 elements of a portfolio. So if the student says, this happened, I saw a case of tuberculosis today, and that's documentation in the male medical ward, that's the documentation. And this is how it made me feel, is the reflection part. The first time I'm seeing a patient, I was really worried whether I should be wearing a mask. The teacher taught us well. I thought this could have been covered a little bit more. Those kind of thoughts are the reflections. students do definitely have these thoughts. We are just not giving them any platform to document those thoughts, or we we can even say we don't care about those thoughts. I mean, that sounds not so good, but definitely students feel things when they attend any learning session, and there is no scope for, you know, handling those feelings. That doesn't matter. We are interested only in the documentation. You attended a TB clinic, you went for immunization clinic. That's the only part we want. We are interested. We don't seem to be interested in how he felt about it. Right. So let's say tuberculosis patient, then the teacher, chips in and says, "Oh, wonderful, nice, good writing. This could have been added." But what do you think about something else? We link it with the further learning. So the feedback serves the purpose of authentication also. If you give a comment, it implies you have read his job, you have read his entry, and you're authenticating, yes, this guy really, attended the clinics. He came, he saw the tuberculosis patient, and he's writing his, reflection. So by giving feedback, we are also authenticating that it's a genuine work by the student. Right. So for people in the know, this is basically the 101 of reflective learning. Documentation, reflection, and feedback. This is basically the ABCs of reflective learning, which is a very nice practice in medical and other educations. Right. So let me just put it another way here. This about record book being very non-personal. You think of logbook as we all had our personal diaries. I mean, not we all. People used to have personal diaries. Personal diaries had a lot of scope for thoughts and feelings and emotion. I felt this way. I got scared by the teacher. The madam teaches well. This sir teaches really good. Those kind of entries were what made up our, diaries. So if a personal diary and the record book get married and they have a child, that's what a portfolio is. It's a mix of subject content along with reflection from the learner. Now, there is a bunch of advantages in using portfolios. We will start from it offers a much more deeper and developmental look at the way student learns. Students take ownership. If it's an electronic form, which they are very familiar with already, they take ownership. They play a more active role across time, across events, across phases. You can capture the learning. It connects the process and the outcome. I did these practical sessions, and now finally I'm able to carry out this task. Both of those are present somewhere in this portfolio. So it connects the processes to the outcomes. It's a holistic method of both documentation and assessment. We can use the very portfolio to assess the student also. So at this point, I think we just have to make a comparison with existing record books. How good are they in serving these purposes? You can keep asking that question whenever you think something is, can only a portfolio do this? Can a record book also do this? You make a mental comparison whenever you are doubtful of the use of a portfolio. You just ask yourself, what would have the existing record book done at this regarding this? Right. Now, moving to the electronic avatar of a portfolio, there are many more advantages. First one is obviously the multimedia advantage, the ability to attach photos, pictures, audio clippings. That gives you such a live, organic feel to the learning, unlike our usual record book. Now, when we go to the nuts and bolts, obviously there are going to be ethical issues of posting a photo from the ward. We need to definitely address those. I'm not saying that. I'm just pointing out that the multimedia ability to incorporate pictures and audio clippings in our record book is it's a wonderful thing. We have just not been using it. And then the other thing is these electronic records, they live on. They don't they don't get lost as such. And you can share it with as many people as possible. You can share it with your class teacher. You can share it with the access, proper access control. It's possible to share. It's not like I've given it to my friend, so I couldn't submit it today. That those things doesn't come. And also the reach and visibility. The use of the record book, the portfolio, e-portfolio goes way beyond the learning years actually. Once the student passes out and goes for his post-graduation or beyond further, finishes his post-graduation and goes for the job, there also his portfolio speaks for him. It's a record of what all he has learned. It's a record of his skills. It's a record of his competencies. So definitely it has you don't usually imagine carrying a record book to an interview or your next job place. Whereas you can give a link to your portfolio which summarizes what you are made of. Right. And this already because we are using all the electronic platforms. It's an asynchronous teaching platform, the entire digital platform. And the effects of feedback and mentoring is readily visible. There is an original post and you give a comment to that and the person makes a revised post. This can be seen chronologically in a portfolio. Whereas in a record book, we sign it, it doesn't look good if we strike off something and then ask him to redo. It just doesn't, look kind of good. It's not just about the look, it doesn't feel good also. And these timestamps, I would say, are the most important advantage of portfolios or electronic portfolios, which basically fixes at what time and date you made that entry. So any last minute entries, 1 week before exam, 1 month before exam, it's going to be readily visible. Right? I hope I'm making sense here. Timestamps no component in all portfolios, whichever platform you take, where you cannot alter this timestamp. It is fixed, it's stamped literally. So it is a proof that this guy actually did the job on that day, and he's not like retrospectively filling pages like in a record book. So this timestamp is an authenticator in sense, right? And then, like I said a little earlier, these kids are like digital natives. They are using the digital platform for everything. It just does not make sense if we don't move with the times and use the digital platform for documentation, right? So let me repeat that again. More than listing out the advantages like that, I just think it does not make sense if we don't move to the digital platform. In fact, we should be justifying why we are not moving. Maybe that needs reasons. Moving to digital doesn't need much reason. Every other system has moved from currency to OTT movies. Everything has become digital. How come documentation has not become digital? That's the question we should be asking ourselves, right? So let me sum up the advantages again. It documents learning processes, it showcases learning outcomes, and it basically promotes reflective learning, which leads students to be lifelong learners, which is one of the things that NMC keeps saying again and again, and which is one of the things we usually wonder, how do we even measure lifelong learning? When do I measure? What do I measure? We have lots of questions, but you put the seed of reflecting learning in them, they will automatically become lifelong learners. Right. Also, giving feedback, it is always a kind of threatening or madriyana situation, both for the learner and we are also little unsure as to whether the guy will take it rightly when in person if we are giving feedback. Whereas on an electronic platform, it is like reading a comments in their Instagram post or whatever. So they are in a non-threatening environment to receive feedback, right? So These are some of the advantages. Recap. Now, what are the platforms available for electronic portfolios? There are multiple options here. One is probably linked with your LMS, learning management system, dedicated paid portfolio services, which some of your sister institutes already have and they have running. Or we could also try out simple alternatives, the free alternatives like Google Sites, make students build their own sites, or a blog, their own learning blog. So Blogger and WordPress are blogging platforms basically. Or basically, if you can ensure the three components, documentation, reflection, and feedback, if you can ensure these three elements, a simple Google Drive or Google Groups with periodic emails will serve the purpose of e-portfolios, provided we do these three. There is documentation, there is reflection, and feedback. I'll show you examples of this. This is from Arupadai, your own sister institute. They have postgraduate e-portfolios. Obviously, I don't have access to this, but I know the page. And from another institute, they both share the same uh, vendor or platform, which is called Mahara. They Aribada and the other, this institute that I'm showing, Mahatma Gandhi. So this is an inside look at one of their PG portfolios. So we can have different sections here, files, journals, notes, and you can have whatever sections you want. And if you look at one of these person's entries, academics heading, he has 79 entries. Daily log heading, he has 58 entries. Patient care and procedures, he has 46 entries. Others, miscellaneous, he has 24 entries. Now, what sections you need to incorporate and all, I will leave it to you. Those are nuts and bolts. You can have CME conferences attended, this, that. I'm not going there. But basically, you have a platform, then you can decide what are all the subsections you want to have inside that. And having tags, something called tags is a very useful thing when you go. You tag each of your entry with many things so that when searching, you can easily find what you're looking for. Let's say external monitoring, 3 of his entries has been tagged. So probably if I click that, it will take me to the posts where this person has gone for external monitoring, probably for a WHO vaccination thing. So tags are important when you set up your portfolios. Right. At KMCH, we tried something else. We explored around basically. So we went with WordPress. Now, WordPress is basically a blogging platform. It is free, obviously. So if I click, are you seeing the browser page here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. So this is the kind of my home page. If you see here, 300 followed sites. Now this 300 is basically 150 plus 150. So what we did was we made every student of 2 batches to start their own blog pages. They did 150, all 150 did. The year after also they did. And I'm following those. Each one of these is a blog entry of a student, not entry, blog of the student. So he's given a name and the address we made.
His
Yes,
line
sir.
has got
Yes.
disconnected. You can call him and check with him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Your video is visible, sir.
Are we back online?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we can put that as one of the problems with electronic, whatever, I guess,
Yes, you're
digital
right.
problems with digital. Right. So the screen is visible now.
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay, ma'am. Yeah, sorry about that disruption, technical difficulties. Right, so we made our students start their own blogs. So they all have their own blogs, and we asked them to do portfolio entries on specific things. So this was something they warmed up really nice because it felt kind of easy for them. There's something they have been used to, like maintaining a Facebook or a Instagram. Facebook, I'm told, is very old. It's for, what do they call, boomers? They don't use Facebook, these kids now. So they're all into Insta. Anyway, they definitely like this better than writing record book. Let me put it that way. Okay, so let's just click something and see where it goes. Nutrition. We had given a specific job on. They had gone home for vacation. I think this was one of the COVID vacations. So we gave them a small job to look at all the food packets, turn it around and see, like, what do you find? So this was basically, we're trying to get them used to food additives and adulterants. So these are jobs done by students at home, and they're doing a little bit of Googling and saying emulsifier E32 something. Then they're talking about that. This is what we found. And then we had actually given a briefing on how to detect adulterants at home. This is an FSA small module. So the kids have actually done it. See, this girl or boy, I'm not sure. So they have they have done these tests and they have reported detergent. What is this? Detection of detergent in milk. So she has followed the test suggested by FSSAI, and she has documented this. Now, this is just an example. Uh, let's click one more example. Mosquitoes. Now, community medicine, mosquitoes, I'm sure you remember that from your time also. So what we did was we asked them to catch and identify mosquitoes at home. See if you can identify mosquitoes at your home. We had given them an assignment. So just just read through. No, this is never did I expect catching mosquitoes would be this difficult. After almost 2 weeks of raiding the terrace, my watchman and I decided to explore the neighborhood. To our excitement, they were all waiting. So these kind of or personal touch or writings are never ever possible in a record book. Definitely, right? So they have tried to capture mosquitoes and trying to identify, and she's saying allegedly, on careful observation, I have identified this as QLX because it has such and such things. The point is, we have made them get involved in learning even outside of academic hours. That is a big achievement. That is how I would look at these things. கிளாஸ்ல அவங்க கவனிக்கிறதே பெரிய விஷயமா இருக்கும்போது, if you can actually get them to do some authentic learning outside of academic hours, that's a huge success there, right there. You can click one more, maybe breastfeeding. We had given them an assignment on we can have sessions and sessions on breastfeeding, but nothing beats like an actual interview with the mother who has been currently breastfeeding or recently breastfed. So we gave that, people did that and reported. So a little bit about the theory, and then comes, yeah, and then comes her, and then comes her interview with the somebody who was breastfeeding. This particular girl, I think Padma Srinivasan, yeah, she couldn't find anybody, so she thought, okay, I'll ask my mother about what went on. So they basically, the mother and daughter spoke about how the student was breastfed when she was a child, and that was that was an unexpected twist. None of us expected. So this created a beautiful bonding time with my mom, and this was really unexpected. So here, this is the faculty comment. This was given 2021. This is the time stamp I'm talking about. This cannot be edited. Okay. So this is a wonderful reflective entry. So you can actually give your comments. And these kind of comments need not be very strict officer. This can, we have to play along with these kids. I mean, if we want to really get them to, learn, we need to, kind of understand how they operate. Anyway, so these are this examples. So these are some of the mid blogs that we tried. There are 1,000 other alternate options to do this. We just tried one way, right? So, but the thing is, all this needs a lot of back end work. What you saw is only the front end. Back lots of work is needed. So we need to prepare the assignments. We need to prepare, and give it to the students. And if you look at this, we need to maintain a list of who has submitted what kind of thing. This is laborious. It will look very. See, this first column is like, what was the assignment given? Health inequality, packaging of food, story of bottled water, microbiomes, nutrition additives, pandemic module, introduction to clinical sessions. And each 150 has been marked with the color code, whether it has been submitted on day or little later, like that. So the point is, there is a lot of work in this. Okay. In the other model, there are a couple of other ways in which we can involve students in an electronic platform other than the blogs. This is one. We can have shared folders for our family adoption program. We are using these shared folders. This folder right here, FAP student share, they all have access to this folder. So student pairs, we paired up students. If we click the first one, let's say, they put there like photos and documents and from experiences from the field, all this in the folder. So these are some other ways of having a Google Drive shared folder is one other way of, using the power of the digital platform for documentation. Or the most simplest version, email submission. You give them an assignment, ask them to submit to your department email. That is what we have been doing here. Once. Let's take a look at this. We had gone for a NGO visit, Families for Children. So we had asked them, write a reflective report on your visit. So this kid has written, good evening, this is my reflection. We went to Vellore. Okay, so these kind of write-ups bring out the emotional component, which again, I will keep saying, which our usual traditional record books have no scope. You think of it, this entry in the record book would have just read, what is the date? 26/2003, we went to Families for Children. And then there will be a faculty signature. That's all would have been captured in a traditional record book. Whereas this captures so much. I mean, this particular page did not allow photographs, so they didn't attach photos. If it had allowed, he would have put photographs also. And he would remember this for a long time. And an entry in the record book regarding this, he would never remember. Right. So just a simple email submission is also a documentation, is also serving the purpose of, portfolio. This is again about the same visit. Another assignment we had given about, find out about costs of pregnancy, and you submit this. This is an assignment, you have marks for this. So this kid has gone back and spoken to people in his, close circles, and he's trying to figure out how much cost it costs them. So conclusion, cost of pregnancy 1.2 to 1.5 lakhs for this particular patient, 58,000 being reimbursed. So these kind of learning triggers, I would call these learning triggers. We need to keep our eyes open for learnable moments or teachable moments rather, and then use them as learning triggers to give assignments to students and tell them that this also counts for your internal assessment. This is what we are going, these things add up. So these are all some possible ways other than running your, institute run paid portfolio service. You can do these without any paid services, an email, a Google Drive. These are definitely doable. Right. Now, at this point, I'm going to ask you to tell me, with all this work and all, is it worth doing? I want you to tell me. You click, I mean, you know, you know what to do, right? You scan this code, you'll be taken to a page, see if you can answer. I'm asking the difficulty, and if you open, you will see the difficulty and usefulness of portfolios. I'm asking. Tell me when I can switch to the other screen. If you have scanned this, I can switch over to the next screen. Right. So I'm asking you to, plot it on the level of difficulty. Anything to the left of the line is you're calling it difficult. Anything to the right, you're saying it's an okay, easy thing. Nah? Anything above the line, you're saying it's useful. Anything below the line, you're saying it's not useful. So 3 people have responded so far. I'm glad you all agree it's useful. It's difficult to do. Agreed, there are problems with it. There are difficulties in it. 4 people. It will be nice if more people tell your opinions. Waiting. Right. I think in the interest of time, I should move on. But let me put it this way. It's good to see everybody on top and like almost on the top. So it's quite useful, but that we are wary of the difficulty of implementing this. Fair enough. It is anything new that comes, we are going to be wary of இது வேற எக்ஸ்ட்ரா வேலையா இருக்கிறது தாண்டி definitely yes agreed. I would also think it that way. Um, right. So let me just quickly run through how there are different styles in which you can do a portfolio. These are rather options. See, for example, if you take duration, you can have it only for one posting, one rotation, like 4 weeks, or one phase one மட்டும் வச்சுக்கலாம். Or you can have it throughout the MBBS course, throughout whatever course you are running. So duration is also flexible. The privacy, who do you want this to see? Only the mentor and the student, or the other students, or the other faculty, head of institutes, his parents, mothers? I mean, who do you want? Is it open? That also, it's a spectrum. You can decide where you want to, how you want to keep. And the content, like, is it like, do you want everything to be recorded, or only like you give the specific assignments and record only those? Or if you look at the reflective component, this is also optional only, actually, if you think. Do you want, you see, reflection cannot be forced upon, basically. It's an organic thing. It's better if it comes out organically. So even reflection component, you can decide, I'm saying, is it like mandatory that every single entry should have a reflection, or when they feel like it, whether they can reflect? It's again a spectrum. You can pick your spot on this. And again, only the best work, the final corrected version only do you want to show, or do you want to show the failed attempts or not so suboptimal attempts also? You want to show, you can decide. Also, how much of control should student have, teacher have? This also is a spectrum you can decide. So there are all these possible things, and the only thing is there is no one right spot. You can be anywhere in this spectrum on any of these variables. You have to find out what suits your institute, what suits your department, what suits your purpose, basically. So the possible options can be any of these. The Mahara is the one that you saw in Arupade video, the paid portfolio system. Could be an electronic record, or it could be blog based, or a simple journal. Now, from what I see, schools have started giving these journals. They call this journal, not our scientific journal. This diary keeping kind of thing, they're calling it journaling. So it could be that way. You ask them to submit to an email, or a wiki in the sense collaborative editing. You give one file, ask multiple people to edit it. That is also possible. Or like I said, send your assignments to this email. That is also possible. And a lot more I haven't even named. There are many other options. Right. So there should be definitely some drawbacks to this, which I was hoping to go with the Menti thing, but looking at the low responses, I would skip this. I would ask you, or if you're interested, please. I mean, I actually don't know whether to go with this or not. Let me give it a shot. Please tell me what do you think will be the possible problems with uh, moving to electronic portfolios. இதுக்காவது நிறைய பேர் பதில் சொல்லுங்க. இவ்வளவு பிரச்சனை இருக்குன்னு சொன்னா ஓகே, ஐ கேன் லைக் ஒர்க் அரவுண்ட் தட் those concerns. What do you think will be the possible problems if we move to this portfolio thing, electronic portfolios? What do you expect as the possible problems? Knowledge, okay, definitely, yes. IT, yeah. Adaptability, I think both of these are for us, not the students. I think students are digital natives. When they're born, they had Wi-Fi, more or less. So, yeah, both these agreed, but they're like our things. Uh, Anyone else is going to say anything?
Narrative
Okay.
skills from the mentee side. How to
Okay,
express like what they are.
Narrative skills will be a problem here. They have learned it, but they wouldn't know how to put it in words, you're saying. அந்த மாதிரியாமா?
Yes.
Time consuming. Okay. Oh, the previous one, somebody has put it outright as not usually the most difficult, this left bottom. I cannot argue. I can try to convince you it's not that difficult and it is useful. Let me try. I can only give a try anyway. Right. Learning curve is difficult. Agreed. There is a learning curve. If e-portfolios, how to do updates? There is a problem how to try. We are diverted to various other fields. This could be true. True in the sense, like we are doctors, we can teach them clinical medicine or like paraclinical medicine, whatever. Why are you making us learn like blog making and portfolio entries and all? This is not our core job. I feel you. I understand what you're saying. This one in e-portfolios, how to update this main problem. I guess the main entry will be there, and then the comment will be at the bottom, your comment, and then there are two ways to fix. If he goes and fixes the main entry, then you won't even see the original entry which was wrong. So later point of time, people will see only the newer entry and the comment which is pointing out things which is not a problem anymore because he has fixed it already. That is one way. The other way is to leave the original entry alone. You make another entry below it with the new changes. That is one way. I'm guessing that is what is meant by this. Or if that's not the problem, you can message me. You can take my number, or even here in the chat, you can chat box where you can put, I'll see if I can answer it. Right. So moving on. So number one is, I think it's definitely resource intense. There's no doubt. And then there will be a lot of copy pasting involved. You give them an assignment or something outside your class thing, they're going to take it from Wikipedia or SlideShare or one of those 1,000 resources. So that's definitely going to be a problem. But the main thing is, are we ready? Is one of the main issues. Are we like, kind of, do we have buy-in? Have we bought into the idea? But most of this, except for the are we ready component, I was hoping this will be filled from your responses. But anyway, all these things here, resource intense, copy based, what you have to ask is, how is it with the current record book? Current record book copy paste பண்ணாமையா இருக்காங்க? Of course, they are writing blindly, looking at others' note. Probably they don't even write. They are asking their juniors to write. And so, what I'm saying is, in this slide, I was expecting 20, 25 points. Most of the points, நீங்களே question பண்ணிக்கோங்க. Current record book system, is it any better? அப்படின்னு கேட்டு பாருங்க. You will have your answer. Right? So except for the learning the IT skills, learning curve, அந்த பார்ட்டை தவிர மற்றது எல்லாத்துக்கும் ஆன்சர் வேணும்னா, you ask yourselves, how is it with the current record books? Is it better or is it, you ask that, you will have your answer. Right? So I think we are moving on to the end of the session. The take home session messages would be, it brings in reflective learning, which infuses life into age-old mechanical record books. If not as a substitute, at least use as a supplement to your existing record book, because moving on to an entirely digital platform is a big change. It will upset, it's just too big a change, too quick. So to start off, I think you can use it as a supplement. You have your record books, but also in addition, try these out. And then you convince yourselves, you convince your heads, you convince your management that it is worth doing. Then you can move forward. And like I said, there are definitely so much benefits going the electronic way, like having this record preserved for like his future, job interviews. It's basically a value added visiting card மாதிரிங்க. You give the link of your portfolio in your resume. They can click it and see what all you have done, literally what all you have done. Even you operating, you like doing a procedure, everything you would have captured in your portfolio. And அதை விட என்ன உங்களுக்கு பெரிய CV வேணும்? So there's lots and lots of advantages going the electronic way of portfolios. And this has also been said before, there is no single best option. Trial it out and find what suits your needs most. And this is what I just said. It is valid and useful beyond academic years. Namma assessment documentation use pandrom. Yes, agreed. But for the learner, it's going to be useful when he moves to a job. Western countries, this adds so much value. This is literally, proof of what you are capable of doing. So, the way things stands, it is much more suitable for postgraduate learning, because the learning is in-depth and the number of students are also limited. So I think right now it is more suitable for PG learning, but we have tried it in UG learning, which I just showed you. It's not impossible. It's just lots of work. Right. So finally, this is basically authentic learning experiences we are giving, and we are authentically documenting it also. So considering all the issues that come with it, if you ask me, is it worth it? I would definitely say yes, it is worth it. That, I think, would be my last slide. I have put together some resources if you want to read up. I can share the PowerPoint with you. And yeah, I can take some questions if you have. Thank you.
for an interesting and thoughtful presentation. And thank you, sir, for sharing your experience about the importance of reflection and the role of portfolio. Now the session is open for discussion. The participants can post their questions in the chat box.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
sir, thank you very much, Sitaraman sir, for your
Oh, pleasure.
wonderful reflection method of teaching in e-learning by e-learning, slowly replacing our traditional home workbook.
Yes,
The
sir.
wonderful initiation, sir. It will definitely kindle our students to go for it. Our Gayatri coordinator will also take care of that. I'm also extremely thankful to our Jnanasegaran sir, IQAC, for participating and arranging from the university and giving chance for our Karaikal VMC to host this meeting. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. What now? I can, if there are specific questions, I can answer some. If not,
Okay,
you
wait for
tell
one
me.
more minute, sir.
Sure. ma'am.
Looking
what
at
are
the
the
various types of portfolios you have been using, I really wonder
Yes.
whether you have the time to do all this.
Yes, sir. Big issue, sir. We divided ourselves like 20 students who were faculty mentor, and like that we divided, and that way it was little. The work was distributed, but still, yes, it takes time, sir. But we just had this background buy-in where we did not want to sign record books blindly at the end of 3 years, sir. Our subject is a 3-year subject. At the end of 3 years, they are submitting these record books of the contents of which we have almost forgotten. We are blindly signing. That was also work. So that part we wanted to avoid. So even though it was a lot of work, we took this up. But point taken, sir. There it is resource intense. It is time consuming. No doubt.
Probably
So
on the
what about
student
the
part,
faculties?
yeah, the student part, I
Yes, sir.
really wonder whether the student will understand the necessity of having back papers.
Yes, students also have to be primed in this. I didn't put up in this slide, but part of the back work was preparing a handbook of how to use portfolios, how to create portfolios. And even that we used one or two interested students who had completed the job first. We asked them to make a small guidebook as to how to use this. That actually helped at the beginning of the years. Yes, sir. Just like training faculty, students also have to be primed and trained how to make portfolio entries. Yes, sir. Good point there. Is one of
One
the
suggestion to the
chats
team,
here
sir,
is saying,
to have our speaker to speak to our students someday, probably in a physical mode, so that students also understand the necessity of digital learning platforms.
yes, sir. Yes. So one of the chats here is saying, if we start this in practice, we will have doubts. I added, okay. So basically, yeah, if you do run it, I'm available for discussions and learnings. Probably I could learn a couple of new things also. Yeah, we can have a continuing exchange of ideas. It doesn't have to stop with this 1 hour presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I think if there are no more questions, we have reached the end of the session. I request all the participants to fill up the feedback form that has been put up in the chat box. On behalf of VMRFDU Mission Medical College Karaikal IQAC, it's my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks. I express my sincere thanks to our Dean Sir, Director IQAC of the University for felicitating this program. And I sincerely thank to our distinguished speaker, Professor Dr. Sitaraman Sir, for enlightening us with a thoughtful presentation about the importance of documentation and reflection in the learning process for ensuring quality. I also extend my thanks to my IQAC team and IT team for supporting me for conducting this program. And finally, not the least, I thank all the IQAC coordinators and participants for your patience listening of this program. Once again, I thank everyone. And I also request everyone to kindly fill up the feedback form.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ma.